Hi, my name is Joe, and welcome to my YouTube channel. This is just going to be a bit of an update to what's going on with the channel and the new books I have for the library. I'm super excited about a bunch of those. Um, First thing, my lovely wife got me this shirt, or this hoodie, by surprise. I love hoodies. It's got fighting words written on it, so I love it. We have 3 black cats, and 2 of them absolutely love snuggling up to me, so it's a white hoodie with a bunch of black cat hair. Anyway, I don't think this is going to be an official logo of any sort, but it is what I'm using for the thumbnail picture right now, or the profile picture. Whatever you call that thing. So that's neat. Also, I bought so many books. A few weeks ago, I posted a video of me giving a little tour of my actual physical library. And since that video was filmed, I actually bought many books, and I'm going to show off some of those right now. And actually, the first 4 I just got because my birthday wasn't that long ago, and I got a gift card from my relatives, and there's a bookstore called Half Price Books, and I love buying books from them because they're half price, and they actually have a pretty solid selection of martial arts books. With that being said, it hasn't been too long since the last time I went there, so they were less substantial in that particular category than they otherwise might have been. So, first one is the Swordsman's Handbook. And this is a collection of teachings and essays by traditional martial art or traditional Japanese swordsmen like Yagyu Minanori, of course Miyamoto Musashi, Yamaoka Tesshu, a few others that I'm going to struggle to pronounce, but this is not so much on technique, but it is a lot on principles, and I think it's going to be very useful for that. There's been a strong link between unarmed martial combat and armed martial combat, and actually sword skills transferring into empty hand skills shows up a lot. Early English boxing, a lot of the boxing instructors were also skilled in fencing and, sword play. I think the back sword was pretty common. You have Aikido. A lot of, the strikes in Aikido are sort of based on sword strikes. Obviously in the Filipino martial arts, a lot of the movements, whether it's meant to be with a short sword or a stick or a knife or a punch or, any other empty hand technique, the movements are supposed to be easily transferable from one to the other. It's more or less the range that changes. And of course, you had Bruce Lee, who incorporated a lot of fencing ideas in his emphasis of lead hand strikes and intercepting and things like tempo and timing. So I hope that that is going to help me with some principles to empty hand stuff, which is much more my focus. Prepper's Armed Defense. This is definitely going in my self-defense category, and it has an entire chapter on knives, it's got melee weapons, it's got a chapter on martial arts weapons like swords and kusari fundo, as well as, obviously firearms, as well as non-lethal stuff, and it also covers some self-defense concepts. So that's going to be an interesting one to read. The Martial Artist's Book of Five Rings. I actually already have a copy of this that I got ages ago, actually during my Navy days, so sometime between 2000 and 2003. but my copy has a flaw. If you can see, this page was folded over during printing, so I'm actually missing text here and text here, and it bugs the hell out of me, so I replace it with a better copy. Asian martial arts, constructive thoughts and practical applications. This is going to be a series of articles from the Journal of Asian Martial Arts, a pretty well-known and well-respected publication. I'm looking forward to this. I've actually got several of their, I guess they're technically anthologies, maybe, because they are collected articles on specific subjects. I think this would be like the 6th or 7th one that I've got, because I bought a bunch of them when they had a sale, I think maybe last year. And I actually had to double check to see if this was one that I already had. But I guess they would have given me a refund if that was the case. I'm not sure if I will ever get around to doing a review of those books. I'm just not sure how well that sort of structure is going to translate into a book review. Similarly, I've got books that are collections of articles from Black Belt Magazine on, knife fighting, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, mixed martial arts, I think maybe combatives. So, sort of in the same boat. I have these really good resources, but also I'm unclear on how or even if I should present them as book reviews. Krav Maga, Fundamental Strategies. Again, this is one that is more on principles and strategies, as opposed to a collection of physical techniques. The books that are collections of physical techniques are actually really easy to do, because a good majority of the books on that subject are pictures, just taking up full pages. I do like books more on this sort that give you an idea of how am I going to use these things in this particular situation? Why would I choose this option instead of that option? So, I've only flipped through this, but I liked what I saw, so I'm looking forward to getting into it. Taekwondo Grappling Applications. This book, which includes a DVD that I haven't taken out yet. We're not even going to start talking about my DVD collection. I got a lot of stuff from Paladin Press. World Martial Arts is another one I just, an avid consumer of, and several others, Mark Hatmaker stuff. I got tons of that. I think I have almost every DVD series he's ever published. I don't plan on reviewing any of those. But if there comes a demand for it, I might decide to do that. Anyway, I'm not thrilled about the subtitle, Hone Your Competitive Edge for Mixed Martial Arts. Not so much. It includes what in karate we would call bunkai. So he takes movements from the Taekwondo forms and shows grappling applications for those movements. And I'm interested in seeing what some of these look like. I'm highly skeptical that training them in the method that seems to show up in this book would translate into actual mixed martial arts skills, but I do appreciate that if you have a martial art that doesn't include, a technique, or, grappling, I was about to say, but I mean, I was able to incorporate some karate movements when I was doing Shisao, with some Wing Chun guys. Um, if you can find an application for the stuff you're doing from other arts, or taking ideas from other arts and learning how the thing that you are most familiar with or most trained in can utilize that idea, I think that that's great. So I am looking forward to seeing it, but again, I'm already sort of grousing about the subtitle. Oh yeah, and next we have an actual reference book, the Illustrated Encyclopedia of Knives, Daggers, and Bayonets. And it's exactly what it says. It's, you know, look at these knives. Here's some stuff about these knives. And, you know, some of them go a little bit more in depth. Pretty good price, bargain price at $12.97 at, I think it was Books A Million. And I do like this sort of easy visual reference manual. So, you know, this one I might, if I review any of these books first, it might actually be this, just because it'll be so easy to get into. But talk a little bit about my reviewing timeline in a second. But none of these are going to get reviewed immediately. Running out of space to put these. Throws and takedowns of Sambo. So Sambo is a Russian grappling art. This is Jeff Thompson. I reviewed his Real Punching book not too long ago. Jeff Thompson actually has series of books. He has the Real series, so Real Punching, Real Kicking, Real Knees, Elbows, Headbutts, and Real Grappling. I think he has a series on ground fighting, and then he has a series on throws and takedowns from various arts. This completes my collection of that. I actually thought that I had a PDF of this at some point, but I haven't been able to find it. But yeah, he's got in this particular series, he covers Sambo as well as freestyle wrestling, Greco-Roman wrestling, and judo. And he tends to focus on his personal pet techniques as opposed, I mean, you can see it doesn't look comprehensive given its lack of size. And it's not. You know, he's like, these are the things that I've done that I like really well, and I'm going to show these. And I strongly suspect that he probably sort of tries to use things from one book that don't show up in the other. You know, there's a lot of single leg pickups here into other things in this particular volume, and belt grabs. I think it's called the Georgian grip. That, you know, you can find similar things in the freestyle wrestling and judo books, but you're not going to find these exact things in there. So, you know, maybe not a whole lot of crossover, and I do appreciate that. Next up is Kata and the Transmission of Knowledge in Traditional Martial Arts. And again, this is not a book on technique. This is almost a I guess an anthropology or sociology book. Either way, more in line with social studies as opposed to, you know, here's how to punch somebody in the face, or here's why you would punch somebody in the face. This is going to be a fun read. My relationship with Kata has been a bit of a ride, but I think with this book, I will probably get a better understanding of the place of Kata, or beyond that, you know, the idea of forms and ritual in martial arts culture. And there does seem to be not an exclusive focus on Japanese martial arts, on karate in particular, you know, that does get a lot of attention, but, you know, it seems like he also branches out into other martial cultures. So I'm looking forward to that read. The Power of Internal Arts, Combat Secrets of Bagua, Tai Chi, and Xingyi. Again, I have an interesting relationship with the so-called internal martial arts. This one is used. You can tell somebody drew in it. I think there's some highlighted sections. Here's the thing. One of the ways I approach martial arts is sort of as a scientist. You know, I want to understand something and then I want to apply it in like a laboratory-like setting. I have been able to pull off some moves that are more commonly associated with traditional martial arts in kickboxing sparring, in MMA sparring, in submission grappling. You know, not tremendously outside of the normal arsenal that are found in those particular formats, but it always sort of tickles me when I do. You know, I got like this, you know, figure four lock I get out of a high underhook. I don't know if I've ever hit, you know, the same person with it twice, but when you do hit somebody with, you know, like the standing figure four that you see in, you know, the old, you know, Japanese jiu-jitsu manuals, like somebody comes at you with a knife and you stop them and wrap around their arm and lock their shoulder. I've done that in grappling. You know, it surprises people. You know, and that's an example of, I like seeking out the sort of off the beaten path corners of martial arts. Part of it is I just want to know what's out there that isn't common. You know, if you were like, you know, here's an ancient martial art from, you know, I don't know, Anatolia or something, you know, something that's not in the mainstream martial arts consciousness, I'm going to gravitate toward that and learn as much as I can about it in a shorter period of time as possible. So when it comes to internal arts, again, I sort of have a weird relationship with it because I have received very little formal training in it. But I think that there's probably value there, despite the fact that you don't see a whole lot of people from those backgrounds excelling at combat sports, which I do see as one of our main laboratories for testing the effectiveness of techniques. But in my association with people who come from these backgrounds, there seems to be an emphasis on good body mechanics. And that's what I'm hoping to get out of this particular book. You know, power generation is, you know, just an incredible attribute to have in martial arts. You know, you can knock somebody out using power. You can throw them using power. You can apply tremendous pressure to a joint lock or break using power. So with this book, I'm hoping to understand or learn more about how to generate that power. And I have already seen some stories in here that seem maybe a little dubious. Oh, I saw this guy do this thing. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know about that. That seems like it might be an exaggeration. But I am invested in investigating this kind of thing in an effort to be more efficient with my body. So we'll see how that turns out. And finally, Comprehensive Asian Fighting Arts by Don Draeger and Robert Smith. I have multiple books by both these gentlemen. They are very prolific authors from, you know, an earlier time. I was recently informed by Jay Cooper, who's a Jeet Kune Do instructor currently out of Canada, that Bruce Lee, some of the drawings in his book actually came from this one. Let me see if I can find one. And the thing about, okay, so like the notes we got from Bruce Lee, the Tao of Jeet Kune Do, was the Tao of Jeet Kune Do was a collection of Bruce Lee's notes. Bruce Lee never intended to publish it, as far as I can tell. Okay, so you can see some of these pictures. You know, those, he redrew these pictures for the section in the Tao of Jeet Kune Do on Muay Thai. And I think there were also the exercises from, yeah, here we go. You'll also find these in the Tao of Jeet Kune Do. You know, again, Bruce Lee redrew them. And the Tao of Jeet Kune Do is a collection of Bruce Lee's notes. I don't want to say it, he didn't plagiarize anything. He didn't plagiarize it because he'd never intended to publish it. But when his notes got published, there were a lot of rephrasings of different philosophical concepts or combat sports, you know, movements and stuff like that, that were originally published in other works. So that's what got my attention on this. I mean, I sort of have this notion of I want to find all of Don Draper's works because I like how he wrote. And I have several of them already. This is Comprehensive Asian Fighting Arts, which covers the arts of China, Okinawa, Korea, Japan, India / Pakistan, Burma, Thailand, Malaysia / Indonesia, and the Philippines. Let's see. Second printing was in 81. So when was its original printing? Anyway. So I'm going to be very interested to really dive into that. Furthermore, other updates to the channel. Right now I'm using a completely new lighting rig that my in-laws bought me, again, for my birthday. Hooray for birthdays. So we're going to see how this turns out. And I'm going to probably continue messing around with the lighting. Before the end of the year, I'm probably going to have a better sound setup. I'm going to keep making, you know, review videos of all these books. And I think I've put out at least one video, and I'm working on a few more that are not specifically on book reviews. I would like to do more of those. I enjoy making the book reviews, but I think that that's sort of a niche thing. You know, I mean, my friends and family make up the bulk of my subscribers at this point, and maybe a few other people who, you know, found me online. But it's hard to really appeal to that many people when you're like, here's a martial arts book, let me tell you about it. You know, I think that that's probably going to get old pretty soon, or at the very least, it's not going to draw in as many people. So I'm going to start working on expanding that. Very soon, we're also going to start adding shorts to the channel. I hope to release them on Tuesdays. So shorts, for those who don't know, are YouTube videos that are less than 60 seconds, and there's also a formatting thing. They should be able to fit on your phone, basically. So we're looking at that. Outside of that, I do regarding the non-review videos, I have outlines written. I have some partially recorded. I'm really excited about some of this stuff, and I hope my viewers will stick with me through it. I can't imagine anyone's on here exclusively to watch me review a book that they might or might not ever see. You know, martial arts is a niche community. Martial arts books is an even smaller portion of that. So hopefully we'll start expanding into videos on, for instance, seeing what techniques were used in the past as answers for certain problems. Me just sort of giving a general discussion on various topics, a few more technique demos. So my goal is to eventually have a book review every other week, and then on the weeks that I'm not reviewing books, have one of these other videos. Some of these are requiring a lot of research, and I'm excited about that, but also it's a little bit daunting, and unlike the book reviews, because I've read or am reading everything in here, you know, the more in-depth videos, I can't just talk about like, oh yeah, let me tell you what happened in chapter 3 and what I liked about this thing and the part where you get to this. You know, I can do most of that without even, you know, flipping through the book. These other videos that I'm working on are taking a lot more time. And I also have this idea of maybe streaming videos weekly, but we'll see. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it, you know, and we're not quite there yet. So anyway, that's what I have going on for the time being. Thank you, audience, everyone who's had the patience to sit through this. And if you have any suggestions for the channel, any ways for me to improve things, you know, I'm all about martial arts, obviously. Fighting words, martial arts library. I love that concept, you know, reading about martial arts, sharing knowledge about martial arts. I'm super excited about that. But beyond the subject matter, you know, and of course, if you have any ideas of things relating to these subjects that you'd like to see me look into, I am taking those suggestions too. But any other formats, any other projects that maybe I should look into, any other improvements, please let me know. I'm all ears. Anyway, that's all for this week, and I'll see you next week. Thank you. Bye.